Alright, so Chuck E. Cheese is extremely iconic and it only makes sense to bring it into Fortnite. So today I built an entire Chuck E. Cheese location and I even made the classic animatronic stage with custom employees. And then at the end, I'm gonna be posting the entire build on TikTok and we'll see how the community reacts.
I'm talking pedicure on our toes, trying on all our...
Trying to do a little 2000 vibes because, you know, Chuck E. Cheese is OG. We currently got an empty island and I made a checklist of everything we got to get done. And to make this more interesting, I'm only going to give myself 4 days to build this entire POI. So it's currently day 1 and the first thing we got to do on the checklist is the terrain. So I headed into UEFN and I just scoped some mountains around the edges of the island and that makes it feel more like a POI. So the next thing on the checklist was the Chuck E. Cheese building, and I thought it would be much cooler if we download one instead of me trying to build one. So I tried to find a Chuck E. Cheese model on Google, and a lot of the Chuck E. Cheese models, the files were just corrupted, but eventually I found this one Chuck E. Cheese model on Sketchfab with no interior, just the exterior, and I think it looks super cool. So I downloaded the model and added it into Blender just to confirm it actually looked good, and I noticed that there was no way to enter the building, so I just deleted the doors, and you also couldn't see through the windows, so I just deleted all the windows, and later I'll replace them with windows you can actually see through. So after all the adjustments to the building, I exported it into UEFN and this is how it looked. Alright, check it out. This is how it looks. It honestly already kind of looks like a building that would be in Fortnite. And currently the interior is not done, but we're to that soon. But to fully check off the building, we gotta fix this sign. I don't remember any Chuck E. Cheese building having a cursive sign. So I just headed over to Sketchfab and I found this one sign with the correct font and I just added it onto the building. This is much better. Okay, so yesterday I kind of got a little bit lazy, so we got a lot of stuff we got to do today. Currently, it's looking pretty good, but there's still a lot more I want to add. Interior time. Okay, so I just laid out a few floors that I think will work pretty good for the interior, and I also made this blueprint to show the idea I have. So on the bottom left, we got the entrance, and then we'll have that connect to the seats and booths. And then right above the entrance, I want to put a kitchen, and then above the kitchen, I'm thinking I'm gonna try to fit a small restroom. Then in the main area, we'll put all the games. Then I got a small little prize section area, and then of course we got to add the stage somewhere, so we'll put that on the far right of the building. And I think this layout will look pretty clean, so I started placing all the floors inside the building and the layout was starting to all come together. But for now, let's move on to the stage and we'll come back to finishing the interior later. So I just went back over to Sketchfab and I found this one Chuck E. Cheese stage, and it looks just like the old stage that used to be in Chuck E. Cheese. So I downloaded it and added it into the build. Check it out. So this is how it looks. I think it looks okay. We'll add more to it later, and we'll also add all the animatronics at the end. But for now, let's go back to the interior. I found a few props for the seats and booths section of the building, and what I want to do is I found this one wall, and I'm gonna just place it right on the edge to separate the games and seats. And then I'm gonna just grab this booth and place it right along the wall, and then we'll just put this table right in front of it, and then just copy the booth to the other side. Yes, that looks perfect. And I should just be able to copy both booths and the table and place it right in front, and it should all align. Yes, that looks great. So I then just continue to copy the booths to fill in the rest of the area. Bro, this looks pretty legit so far. It's starting to honestly look like a Chuck E. Cheese. I then wanted to add more tables, so I made this lawn table and put some stools in front of it. This looks pretty good. I then just added a few smaller tables. The seats slash booth section is done. I don't really have a name for it. We could call it the eating area, but I think it looks pretty good. So with this section complete, it's now time to move on to the kitchen. So for the kitchen, I wanted to connect to the main entrance, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have a service counter, and then if you walk behind the service counter, you then can get into the kitchen. So I laid out a few props and I'm gonna just start piecing stuff together. Okay, so at this point I was extremely locked in and I didn't really explain what I was doing, so I just added this one wall to separate the kitchen and service counter, and I then just closed up the kitchen. And at this point you can see it was still a mess. I was just piecing stuff together at this point, but slowly it was starting to all come together, and before I knew it, the whole top left of the building was complete. Morning. So yesterday was good. We got a lot done. Before I show you the kitchen and everything I finished yesterday, I forgot to finish the prize area, so let's just build that real fast. Finished. So when you walk in the building, we got the service counter, and then right over here we got the prize area that I just built. And there's no Chuck E. Cheese props, it's mainly just Fortnite props, but we built it in Fortnite, so it kind of makes sense. And then we got the service counter right here, and then if you walk through this little passage, you could get into the kitchen, and then right out this door we got the prize area. And I managed to fit a small little restroom. It's kind of dirty, but I added a mirror, so it's kind of cool. Oh, and I also added this little section over here just because it was kind of empty, so this kind of fills it in. But it was then time to add the games, and then the interior will finally be done. So I just went over to Sketchfab and I found a few arcade games and added them into the build. Oh, that animation is gonna be sick. So as I was walking around the build this morning, I was thinking it felt a little empty, so I want to make some custom employees. And what I'm thinking is I'm gonna just make 2 basic skins for the service counter, and then I want to make a custom chef skin. So I just went over to Blender and I imported Ramirez as the basic service counter skin, and I just added a Chuck E. Cheese name tag on her so you know she works there. And I then just exported the skin into Mixamo where you can download any animations. So I found this one animation and I just added it into UEFN. I then went back over to Blender and added Jonesy and did the same process. These look pretty good. Okay, so it's now time to do the chef skin. So I just imported this one skin and I just want to replace the dog with a human. I then added a small little name tag to make it an official employee, and then just imported it into Mixamo to get some animations and imported it into Fortnite. Last day. So there's a few things we got to get done today. I want to finish the landscape, and then I also got to finish the animatronic stage, and then there's 2 other things I want to do, but we'll get to that later. So for now, let's just do the landscape. Sidewalks are done. I then just added some bushes and did the rest of the landscape around the POI. Okay, the landscape is done and it didn't take too long, but what I want to do now is I want to just extend these roads, and then I also want to add some parking lot lines. So I just headed over to UEFN and I just extended the roads, and then just headed over to Photoshop and made some parking lot lines and added them into the build. Okay, the landscape and sidewalks are done and it looks super official, like it feels like a POI that's in Fortnite. But before I show you, let's just get the rest of the build done. Animatronic time. Okay, so for the animatronics, I just headed over to Sketchfab and I found every Chuck E. Cheese character, and some of them already had animations to them, but the characters that didn't have animations, I just put them into Mixamo and gave them animations and then just added them into the build. And then to fully finish the stage, I just added some lights to make the animatronics pop, and then for both sides of the stage, I just added some walls so you couldn't get behind. And then the last thing I did was just add some lights across the whole building. Alright, the animatronic stage is now done, but there's still one more thing I want to do before we post the map on TikTok. Almost every Chuck E. Cheese has art around the building, so the last thing I did was download some Chuck E. Cheese art and added it onto the walls, and with that, the final Chuck E. Cheese build was done. Alright y'all, the build is fully done. I'm gonna go through everything and then we'll make a TikTok and post it, and I think it'll do pretty well because this is just a unique thing you usually don't see. So let's just go through the build. The first thing is I added all the windows, and then when you walk in the build, we got the service counter and the employees with the custom name tag. I think these turned out amazing. They're simple and they work. And then through this little passage you could get into the kitchen, and we got the chef cooking up. He's actually not really cooking, he's just doing this animation, but it looks like he's doing something. And then we got the little name tag on him. It looks pretty cool. And then if you walk out this door, we got the restroom, and then we got all the games, and I think the games turned out super good. And then the eating area, and then here is all the Chuck E. Cheese art I added, and then I also added some art on this wall. And then we got the full animatronic stage. I think this came out super good. The lights make the animatronics pop, and I also added some confetti. But that's pretty much the full build, so it's now time to post it on TikTok. So I just edited a fast TikTok and this is how it turned out. I built an entire Chuck E. Cheese inside Fortnite, and this is how I did it. So I started off by adding the Chuck E. Cheese building, but there was no interior, so I made a little blueprint of how I want the layout to be. And the first thing I did was add the classic animatronic stage, and currently it's empty, but we'll add all the animatronics at the end. Alright, I think you get the point. It's pretty much this whole video summarized. If you guys want to watch the whole thing, it's on my TikTok. You could go check it out. So let's just post this and then we'll wait. So it's been probably about 27 hours since I posted the TikTok, and I also tried to publish the map and it got rejected. It makes sense, there's Chuck E. Cheese branding all over the build, but the TikTok did pretty well. I just checked it like 2 hours ago, so let's just open up the app and I'll show you. So right off the bat, we got 18,000 views and then 1,600 likes and 53 comments, and the top comment is make it a horror map, and I was trying to, but the map got rejected. And then the next comment is we got Chuck E. Cheese in Fortnite before GTA 6, and then this is really well done, but I don't see any hate comments, so this project has been a W. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm gonna go to bed now. Peace.
I'm talking pedicure on our toes, toes.